Hello, I'm Troy Eckard. I am the CEO of Eckard Global and Eckard Enterprises out of Richardson, Texas. And today I want to talk to you about a subject that should be pretty much on many of the energy investors' radar across the country. It seems like for the last decade, we all have probably been hearing about something called LNG, which stands for liquefied natural gas. And liquefied natural gas is something that has evolved over the last 10 to 20 years as a potential global viable commodity that in fact could and probably will start affecting crude oil supply and crude oil demand sometime over the next 10 to 20 years. So let's talk about what LNG is, why it's important for you to know about it, and how today learning about it may give you some opportunity for making some smart investments in companies that will be either providing liquefied natural gas to end users and or the facilities that will process and store that liquefied natural gas. First off, everyone should probably understand by now that the global energy market is exactly that. It's global. We have countries that are producing crude oil primarily, that are shipping crude oil across the oceans to the United States, that in fact are trying to import natural gas to supply their cities with utility usages such as gas for homes and plants, etc. So what we have is an entire highway system set up of ocean barges and ships that are traveling all over the world carrying not only material goods but carrying oil, LNG, and other types of products. In this case, what we want to do is talk about LNG as a actually commercially viable product that has been on the boilerplate, has been in the makings for well over a decade. And I think it's now not only become a reality, but I think it's something that's going to be a massive market over the next decade for the following reasons. First off, there's a great article in the Forbes Magazine in September of 2016, and it was addressing the fact that finally the first actual vessels that were containing and putting U.S. natural gas that had been compressed and processed into LNG material product on an ocean-going barge or ship, and was being shipped and transported to a country that had the need for liquefied natural gas to supply its consumers. Now that all started back in the beginning of January 2016. By mid-year last year, there had been 50 billion cubic feet of gas that had been shipped in LNG vessels. Now Cheniere, which is at Sabine Pass in Louisiana, was the first activated LNG facility. There is another facility up in Maryland on the northeast coast, and between those two, they now have started processing and loading vessels to ship abroad. Now Cheniere itself shipped a number of vessels over the last 18 months. Those vessels have now gone to well over 11 different countries or customers, and that number of customers in the countries that are desiring LNG continues to increase. Prime example, let's take Japan. Japan had their big nuclear meltdown at their power plant and the nuclear facility about 2.5 to 3 years ago. Now that country has had a big void in some of their energy surplus, a big concern about additional nuclear plants having similar problems as a result of the earthquake. And so now we're looking at LNG being a very top-of-the-line interest level by Japan as a result of replacing that lost energy. Well, you do that type of increased demand or new demand coupled with just normal supply and demand needs by countries that don't have a lot of natural resources, you're going to see that LNG is going to be a very, very strong product for consumption over the next foreseeable future. Now, why is LNG becoming important in the United States? Let me just tell you briefly. We've gone from a country that 15 years ago felt like we might have had 25 to 50 years of supply in natural gas recoverable reserves. And then all of a sudden we came along in the late 1990s and we discovered the Barnett Shale in Dallas and Fort Worth, where I live. In the Barnett Shale, which is like the second most organically rich basin in the world, had just massive amounts of natural gas. Well, that shale discovery and the mechanical attributes to extract that gas out of a tight, hard shale spread all over the country. Now we have 32 states, we've got probably 50 or 60 different shale formations, and the amount of recoverable reserves continued to increase over the last 15 years from 50-year supply, 100-year supply, 150-year supply. I believe the last number I heard was something like 250-year supply of natural gas, and that's with us developing most of these shale plays only 10 or 20%. So I would be comfortable in my statement saying we have all the natural gas we need for the United States and massive excess amounts of natural gas that we can ship abroad. So what have we done? We've gone from becoming a net user to a net exporter. And the best way to export that natural gas is in LNG. Taking it out of the ground, let it expand, recompressing it, putting it on a vessel and shipping it abroad. So when you think about LNG, if it were me, I'd be looking at the companies that have LNG investments in both the vessels, the fabrication of the vessels. I'd be looking at the LNG facilities like Cheniere that already have the installations put in place. I'd be looking at oil and gas exploration companies that have LNG or lots of natural gas that can be supplied to the LNG. And I'd definitely be looking at the midstream companies, those that own pipelines that get the gas from one point to the other, as being companies and assets that should continue to grow in value as this LNG market begins to expand. Let me give you a couple of statistics and why this may be faster than you think. First of all, the Panama Canal has undergone a massive revitalization. We've gone from the original Panama Canal, and now we have a parallel Panama Canal that's bigger and wider for these larger vessels. Those vessels are LNG type vessels that can now get to the Panama Canal. It makes it cheaper, faster, and easier to deliver it to the Asian countries that were going to be our customers. In addition, the Panama Canal has adjusted their toll rate to make it more economically feasible for these LNG vessels to get through the Panama Canal, which should increase. The expectation is over 550 vessels per year will go through the Panama Canal full of LNG. The other thing is that when you look at it from a pure economic impact, it's estimated between late last year, 2016, through the end of 2020, just in that little 5-year time frame, they're talking about close to $250 billion in economic impact directly related to LNG. So my commentary today is based on the following two things. One, LNG has been almost like the Loch Ness Monster or Sasquatch. It's all been a myth. We've all heard about it. We've all thought about it. We've all heard statistics about when, where, how. Is it economically viable? Well, let me tell you something. Now it is in place. It is making money. And is actually a market that has come to life and is growing, and it will exponentially grow over the next 10 to 20 years. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, for those of us that own natural gas, it is a big relief on the supply side of natural gas, which is why gas is holding at $3.30, is because we now see that the excess gas has an outbound demand by other countries. This is what we need to keep gas prices high, to use up the extra gas that we have, and develop the United States energy program. So my name is Troy Eckard. I'm the CEO of Eckard Global, Eckard Enterprises here in Richardson, Texas. I hope my commentary on LNG gives you some food for thought. God bless America, and have a great day. Thank you.